This man is Roman Reigns. He is back in the WWE. You can argue he's the biggest baby face on the company roster right now, although Cody Rhodes, actually I think Cody Rhodes is probably number one, but they're one-on-one. It's pretty cool that we have Cody Rhodes and we have Roman Reigns. It's like The Rock and Steve Austin from the late 90s, which is super duper exciting. But he's been back on WWE television now for 3 weeks, and he decided, you know what, I can take on the Bloodline on this week's episode of SmackDown. And it didn't work. And you know what? I think this is fantastic storytelling. Now, I know a big criticism is that the Bloodline just does the same thing every single week, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I said that on What Culture Ups and Downs. Make sure you check them out right now. Subscribe to them and subscribe to me too. The button is right there. I'd massively appreciate that. But it just does kind of evolve, but it evolves in a very strange way, because the Ula Fala, I was probably pronouncing that wrong. I'm sorry, I'm a terrible person, has basically become their world title that they're fighting over, which is kind of interesting because CM Punk and Drew McIntyre were trying to do this with their bracelet, and they now feel like they're pivoting away from that, whereas everyone's cool with the Ula Fala. So it is what it is, and I've got no problem with either, by the way. I like it when WWE brings in sentimental things, because again, you can move a championship elsewhere, and you can just focus on a personalized beef, which is totally cool. But essentially, that's what makes you the tribal chief. So Solo Sikoa thinks he's the tribal chief. Roman Reigns thinks he's the original tribal chief. But because Roman Reigns spent 4 years doing what the Bloodline 2.0 just did to him on a Friday night, he thought he could waltz in there and just take back what was his. Now, he did do this for a little bit until Jacob Fatu made his comeback to SmackDown. This was so damn good. I still don't know if he got injured at SummerSlam or not. I have no idea. I'm just going to say he's the greatest seller of all time and move on from there. They triple powerbomb him, shield bomber power him through Alan the announce table. Then, of course, they roll him in the ring and they stand over him as we crown, re-necklace, whatever we're going to call it, Solo Sikoa to try and make you know he is the tribal chief. And now, what does that mean Roman Reigns has to do? Well, 1, he's had a taste of his own medicine. Again, he did this for 4 years. 2, this is the reason why nobody came to help him. Like, imagine you were a Kevin Owens. You're a good guy. You have finally seen the light. You'd be like, I'm not going to help him. He basically tried to kill me, especially at the Royal Rumble. And 3, it means that Roman Reigns is probably going to be off TV for a couple of weeks, and he's going to have to go home and think to himself, man, I need to get the recruitment back. He'll go and get Paul Heyman, and yes, he'll probably go get Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso, and Sami Zayn and say, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize what I had done to you. And as long as WWE take their time with this and they're patient and they make sure it has the emotional resonance that it does need, I actually think this could be a moment for the ages, because once again, it's 2 + 2 = 4. It makes all the sense in the world. And this is why I like the fact that Bloodline 2.0 maybe had their final big attack where they took out Roman Reigns, because he's back's against a corner now. You can't take out a whole team by yourself, especially when they're as strong as the Bloodline 2.0 are. And they didn't even have Tangaloa with them, Mr. Eye Patch himself. So I just really, really like it because it rewards you for the last 4 years. And I think there's definitely would have been a time in WWE where a Cody Rhodes and a Kevin Owens and a Sami Zayn, they'll just come out because they're just good guys. Well, that's pathetic, man. I don't mean that as a bad way. It was still fun back then, but it's way better when you can actually see people being real people, right? It's the worst I've ever said in my life. But I get their characters, but they should have human traits that we can relate to. As a quick aside, that's why I was surprised that everyone was like, oh man, that Kevin Owens story is so stupid. Why would he turn down a world title shot? Because he basically has imposter syndrome. He doesn't think that he's good enough, so his brain's all flubbed up. Now, maybe WWE could have done a better job with that, but I will always take more of this in my professional wrestling. It's like Rhea Ripley said, listen, I am super duper pissed off, but I'm also sad, Dominic, because you broke my heart. Everybody's had their heart broken. I'm going to imagine a lot of people listening to this have suffered from imposter syndrome, so I don't want that to go away, and in fact, I want it to stay there. And that's why it's great that Roman Reigns got his ass kicked too. He's a human being. He ain't no superhero, and he's going to have to get a bunch of friends so we can do the Avengers, right? That's what it's going to be, the Avengers versus Thanos' group, whatever you want to call it, Batman versus Joker. It's probably going to go down at the Survivor Series, and it means you're almost going to get this RPG level of conversation tree where Roman's going to have to go to Sami Zayn and explain himself. Same with the Usos. Maybe the same with Cody Rhodes. And then The Rock's going to pop back up, right? So I think all of this is truly, truly wonderful. And it is coming at a good time for WWE because they're back on USA at the start of October, I think, or maybe in September, within the next 6 to 8 weeks. And I think eventually you're going to have to put Roman on one show and Cody on the other show. Because when Cody did come out to make the save after Kevin Owens defeated Grayson Waller, this place went crazy. It's funny too because Cody ran out with his belt, but his top off. That's why I love professional wrestling. But I do think you have to do the Roman Cody part 3 or whatever it would be at some point. But I think until then, support Raw, support SmackDown, figure out what your plan to go is going to be, and go from there. But I thought it was an electric end to SmackDown, obviously helped by the crowd who were really, really into this. And again, he can be off TV next week. And it is kind of interesting because we know that we now have to do the Bloodline versus the Street Profits for the World Tag Team Championship. championships because the DIY lost to the Street Profits. It was a weird way to put those words together. But do we do that Bash at Berlin? Probably. Does Roman Reigns come before that? Or do we write him off TV so he doesn't go to Germany and therefore he comes the way afterwards? Do we do anything with Solo Sikoa on that show? Does he just help the Bloodline retain? There's lots of kind of questions here, and I guess you could argue that maybe the Street Profits could have beef with the Bloodline if they do get screwed over, so maybe that can pertain to something that Roman does. I don't know. I just think that when you have characters that are this over, I mean, you could get away with a lot anyway, but I think WWE is sticking to task. Like, we know what we want to do, we know where we've gone, we know where we're going, and again, I totally believe that the Usos and Sami Zayn are going to get back to with him, and it's going to be a cry time, right? And we're going to have tears coming from our water devices. So, a couple of thumbs from me. Again, definitely check out DIY versus the Street Profits if you can. Just such a good tag team match. Did make me a little bit sad because I think the tag team division has been slightly ignored. We need to just reframe it all and get a bit of depth and get a bit of structure there, because I think it could be better than it is right now. And Andrade versus Carmelo Hayes, that is round 3. Carmelo Hayes finally gets his win after the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment. And I didn't necessarily like it when Andrade just beat him and Carmelo was like, yeah, but let's do it again. And Andrade went, yeah. Andrade beats him. Carmelo's like, yeah, let's just do it again. I mean, he did beat him up, obviously, to try and convince it. But now it has almost become sports, right? It's become the playoffs. It's become the finals. You are 2-1. Carmelo's got the momentum. He kind of stole one here. You could argue it. And I would do a best of 5. I would do a best of 7. I would do the next one at the pay-per-view by Bash at Berlin. But I'd make it a big deal. I'd have the winner go on to face LA Knight for the United States Championship. And I would just sell this as, oh my gosh, they've just come together at the right time. They have had some pretty damn good matches. And this may have been the best one of the 3. I don't like talking like that. I think that's a waste of time. All of them together were awesome. You could watch all 3 back to back and you would be having a good time and feeling good in your Tootsie Toe. So that ruled as well. And the only thing I would say, I don't call it a negative, it wasn't a negative. The Blair Davenport versus Naomi match, it just didn't click, right? And it happens. I said this on Ups and Downs too. Sometimes you go to work and you have a bad day. Why'd you have a bad day? Yesterday was really good. Sometimes you go to the gym, and on the Monday, you had the greatest lifting session ever. On the Tuesday, you can't lift squat. And you're like, what is going on? It's your brain, it's your sleep pattern, it's the food you ate that day. Sometimes it's just life going to kick your buttocks, and it does suck. But the match was fine. It just went a bit wishy-washy, I suppose, and that can happen. So I'm not going to get too mad about it, and the positives to pull from it are absolutely Blair Davenport winning. You want to make sure your NXT call-ups get wins, especially over established talents like Naomi, although on the flip side, I actually think Naomi loses a little bit too much. But I do believe now on next week's episode of SmackDown, we're going to do Naomi, Jade, Cargill, and Bianca Belair versus Blair Davenport and Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. Whoever the hell she teamed up with, right? There's too many 3 people's teams on Raw and SmackDown, I get confused. So we do know where we're going here. And then I suppose the only... Well, I want to talk about so Grayson Waller and Kevin Owens as well. Kevin Owens wins, which makes sense. Make sure he gets a wins before we get to Berlin in order to make him feel like a proper #1 contender. And we kind of tease like, oh, maybe Kevin's going to whack Cody Rhodes. Maybe it's kind of all falling apart here. We don't know. But I hope that Kevin does not something dastardly. Look, people are going to go crazy, and I have to apologize because you do not like it when someone does this. AEW, what they're doing with Swerve and Bryan Danielson right now, I think is really smart, right? Because it pertains to who the Swerve character is. I think we can bring a little bit of that edge, not Adam Copeland, into the Kevin Owens Cody stuff. And because the championship is on the line, it kind of corrupts Kevin's brain a little bit. And yeah, he just has a bit more attitude. So it's not just, oh, you're my friend, Kevin Owens, and I'm going to have a respectful match with you. But I still like it because, again, from a fan's point of view, I like Kevin Owens and I like Cody Rhodes. So seeing them fight, especially because as well, if they do it like when we had AJ Styles, Cody Rhodes round 1, they were essentially both baby faces, really. I know AJ was leaning towards the heel side. But if they have a match like that where it's just a good old-fashioned barn burner and they fight, right? People remember how good Kevin Owens is. And actually, when you look at Cody Rhodes' championship run post-WrestleMania that way, it has been good, but I also understand people want the stories, they want the feuds, they want the, end of the story type stuff. But The Rock is just around the corner. It's August now. He's probably going to be back towards the end of the year. And as soon as you've got that, people are going to forget everything else anyway. But it's the opening segment, which I suppose drew a line down the middle. It wasn't even down the middle. It was way much more towards what the hell are we doing? If you don't watch my stuff, then you're going to get mad. If you do, this shouldn't surprise you. Thought it was the best thing I ever seen. It's so bad, but in the best possible way. Tiffany Stratton throws a celebration for Nia Jax. It's all pink. Nia Jax doesn't like it because her style is destruction. Doesn't make sense. You cannot convince me that makes any sense. If somebody said that to you in real life, you'd be like, huh? I don't want to chat to you anymore. When Pretty Deadly do their musical, it's all out of time. It's all out of sync. What was the one line that really got me? Like, we've bowed before Queens before, but you're the prettiest one. I can't remember now. But it's just so dumb, and it was so ridiculous. Then Michin turns up with a kendo stick. She hits Pretty Deadly, who have done nothing to her, by the way. So that was totally unnecessary. Bailey's not involved. Maybe Bailey got wrote off TV and I forgot. Have I forgotten? Can somebody tell me? There's nobody here. Nobody can tell me. You'll have to tell me in the comments. But it was a disaster. But it was not a disaster in a bad way. It was a disaster in a glorious way. And I never want wrestling to stop this. In fact, there was a time when Triple H took over. It felt like he wasn't going to do this dumb stuff. I was freaking out. I need this. If I don't have this, I don't want it all of the time, but I want my wrestling sometimes to be totally absurd. Otherwise, I don't want to watch it anymore. It's not true. I'd still watch it. But I loved it, man. I'm never going to watch it again. But if the point is to be entertained, I had a massive smile on my face, especially because that's your opening segment, utter dumbness, and the last segment is something we've basically been talking about for 4 years, which is a huge investment for any kind of wrestling promotion, but it's the way with SmackDown. Some people have said, and again, more power to you, I respect your opinion, I do, but again, I get it's an echo chamber, Twitter. When you sort of hear it, you don't feel the same. You do start having a back and forth in your brain. I think SmackDown's been fine the last few weeks. I mean, way better when Roman came back. I maybe had a teeny bit of a lull, but because it's 2 hours, I still do feel like it flies by. I'm having a good time. Maybe Raw is better because there's an extra hour there, so you can fit more narratives into it. But no, I really enjoyed everything we did on this show. I mean, there are some things we probably need to speed up. I think the split up between Grayson, Waller, and Austin Theory should probably happen now. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. They're clearly not going to have any more tag team matches, or it doesn't seem that way anyway. So I'd certainly start heading in that direction. We need to figure out exactly what we do with Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair, because you have 2 megastars there who they feel not directionless because we know they're going after the tag team championships. So those women tag team belts just don't have the allure that they do need. And actually, it's Bianca Belair. I don't want to say she's suffering because she's helping Jade Cargill. That's the number one thing you can do in wrestling. Pass your power on to somebody else. But she should be back in the title picture, especially with Nia Jax there. Well, I suppose what you could do is Bianca Belair could win the Royal Rumble, and Jade Cargill still needs to have that match with Nia Jax. So Jade Cargill could win, and you can do Bianca versus Jade at WrestleMania. But Bianca Belair needs to be in the title picture. Like, she's one of the best people in WWE, period. She's an amazing babyface. She's an incredible professional wrestler. And again, why do you think WWE went up to her and went, oh, hi, can you babysit Jade Cargill? Essentially, there's a reason for it. So, there are certain things we do need to move around. But week to week, I think maybe we're relying overly on Cody and Roman Reigns, but you should do that, right? That's what we did in the late 90s, again, with The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. A lot of the stuff on those shows were terrible, but they were so over, it didn't matter. And I don't think anything is terrible now. I think maybe sometimes WWE could do things in a different way. I never actually watched something and think, well, that was atrocious. I mean, I know a lot of people think the Nia Jax thing was atrocious. It depends why you tune into professional wrestling, I suppose, because that was the first thing that some people laid their eyes on. They were probably stunned. I really had a good time watching it. I know, I'm a terrible person, and I'm absolutely part of the problem. But as we move into next week, and we're a couple of weeks away from Bash at Berlin, I just think there's a lot to get invested in and be excited about. And don't forget, next week as well, it's All In over here in the UK. So that's going to be awesome. So it's just a cool wrestling boom. And we'll probably hear about the Warner Brothers deal for AEW as well soon. Then Raw's going to be on Netflix come January. And there's going to be WrestleMania again. And the flipping Rock is going to be back. So, no, I am enjoying professional wrestling a lot at the moment. Maybe there was a time a few years ago where it did feel a little bit laborious. I don't feel that way about it anymore. And I look forward to all the stuff that is going to come down the pipe. But my opinion never matters. So make sure you go into the comments below and let me know what you thought about the show and anything else you want to throw in there. I am always intrigued by it. And if you could like the video, share the video and subscribe, I appreciate that. Click the bell, ding, ding, notification crew, and bam, click the video on the screen. It's me ranking every single WWE champion right now, and you will not agree with the results. If you're into fitness as well, make sure you go to grillermind.com/Simon. You can Simon get 10% off. Seriously, man, omega-3s and creatine are the 2 supplements I will say will actually make a huge difference to your, not necessarily your bodybuilding life, creatine will, but for your overall health life. They have just launched some omega-3s, and you're going to say, well, you're just a promoter, Simon, but it's true. I don't think they were going to be as good as they were. They are way better than any omega-3s I've ever had. I'm just going to put it out there. It's worldwide shipping. You want to try the code. Otherwise, it's a go fitness. You go to Simon20 to get money off there. It is patreon.com for Simon316. Simon316 on all social media handles. Simon J. Miller on TikTok. Simon Miller on Cameo. Pro Wrestling Tees. If you want to buy one of my t-shirts like this, there you go. Scoofy Wrestling for Life. And that obviously ties in because of that opening of SmackDown. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Appreciate you. Take care. See you soon.